Hey guys, it's Ariel. So, today I'm going to be talking about the very first time I ever saw All Time Low. And as you guys know, I'm a very big All Time Low fan. I had never gotten to see them before, and honestly, this show, I swore I would never go see them again after this, not because of their performance, it's because it was a little, much. Mostly because, as all Time Low fans know, our fan base is a little crazy. And they're all really, really nice until you get them in the same room with the band. And then all they want to do is fuck them through the barricade, which is a little scary when they overpack a show. This show was overpacked, and it was insane. And I honestly thought I was going to die more than once. I did lose my phone. Thank God somebody saw it fall out of my pocket and happened to be right in front of me. She put it between her feet and she's poked me and she's like, "Hey, you dropped your phone, it's between my feet." She's like, "I saved it for you." I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." This is after I almost fell trying to get out of the pit because I just was done at this point, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, this was on November 11th, 2012. This was the rock show at the end of the world tour, because as you know, in 2012 the world was supposed to end, blah 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 blah, and it didn't, obviously. And it's sort of weird to me that this is so long ago, because I remember this night extremely well, mostly because I had been through, once again, hell to get to this show, and I kept having problems with rides, and it was actually really, really cool. My friend, the one that went with me to Uproar, Conrad, was supposed to go and then wasn't able to. And then that was 2 days before the show. I was just like, what the fuck? I also was supposed to have an interview at the show. I had a photo pass, but I was supposed to have an interview that ended up not working. And, it kind of started a line of me asking way too fucking much for an interview with this band, and they will be the death of me. I've decided this. I like them too much. It drives me crazy a little bit because I really like All Time Low. I have an obsession. I admit it. I hate that because I try to be professional, and I really don't like having obsessions that isn't just music in general, because I feel like a fangirl when I do that. But that being said, I can still talk to them like they're normal people, and you'll get to that story in a little bit. You will hear that because, well, I had interactions with almost every band member except Alex, but that was funny. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. This whole day was very interesting. Anyways, my friend Patrick felt really bad that I was going to have all those problems because I told him one, I really wanted to go to the show. 2, I had a photo pass. And 3, my number 1 fan, Jamie, was going to be there. Plus I was going to get to meet my friend Hallie for the first time. I hadn't seen Jonathan in over a year, or about a year. It was about a year. And I was like, I really just want to go, and I was so upset. He had been in a motorcycle accident about 2 weeks before this. Maybe. No. Yeah, about 2 weeks before that, I think. And he had a fucked up shoulder. He had a dislocated shoulder. And he had a vehicle, but the problem was his dad said he couldn't take it unless he fixed his sister's car. So he was like, tell you what, and this was the day before the show, I might add. He was like, tell you what, if you help me fix the car, I'll take you. And I'm like, okay. I know nothing about cars, but okay. So we got it running. And I feel like I did nothing. He swears to God that I did so much. And he took me to the show, and I was so internally grateful for this, just for the fact of he doesn't even like All Time Low. And he went 3 hours across the state to take me to a show filled with horny teenage fangirls with a fucked up shoulder. And for a band that he doesn't even like. He hadn't even listened to them until 2 days before the show, I don't think. And it was just a crazy experience. We go over there. We got there way too early, intentionally. The show was at 6 or 7. We got there at 1:30 in the afternoon. And that was because my friend Jonathan is a lucky son of a bitch. Well, no, not a lucky son of a bitch because I don't know his mother. You're just a lucky person. A lucky bastard. There you go. And he knows everybody, and I knew that All Time Low has like acknowledged him, that they really know who he is, so I'm like, figured, hey, if anybody can get me an interview, it'll be him. The funny thing is, we get to the show, and I can see all the tour buses, and I'm just, like, ready to go. I'm excited. And this was at Revolution Live in Fort Lauderdale, by the way, which is, like, my favorite venue of all time. I love it to death. It is just amazing, and it is the best place to meet people. Friends and bands, just so you know. If you ever get to go, you should. They should hire me to promote their venue, because I'm very good at it. And, it was, really funny, because my friend Patrick parked across the street, and he was like, "You're just ready to go now, aren't you?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "Go." So I basically ran across the street, and I see, like, a whole bunch of people, and I see my friend Jonathan, like, down the little walkway, and I'm just sort of focused on him, because I wanted to give him a hug. And as I'm walking, I walked right into somebody, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." Didn't really look at the person that much, and he didn't really say anything. He just sort of smiled and, like, walked away. And as I'm walking, I'm like, that guy looked like Ryan Dawson. And I'm like, as I think for a second, I'm like, that guy was Ryan Dawson. And I'm like, I walk over to Jonathan, I'm like, "Was that Ryan that I just walked into?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, I should have apologized. Oh no, I didn't even say anything. That was what it was. I didn't even say anything. I just sort of smiled and, like, gave him a look like sorry, but I didn't speak. That's what it was. Because I just didn't think about it. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I feel like a bitch now. I didn't say anything. And, I mean, I guess I should have anyway. It doesn't really matter if it was Ryan or not, but I still felt bad just for the fact of, you could have said something, not just walked into him. And we're talking for a little while, and I see Ryan. You can tell he's on a mission. He walked back and forth like 5 times. The first time, he walked like down the little walkway, which there's like a strip shopping center basically right there. Like there's a bar right next to it, and like other things down the road. And he walked down there, came back with nothing, walked back again, and then came back with food. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was. He was hungry. We just started hanging out for a little while, and then all of a sudden, there's like a backstage area that you can kind of see where it's like all the equipment gets loaded and stuff, and there's also like a trailer that was open and like people were moving things in and out. And all of a sudden, Zach walks out, Zach Merrick, and he like stretches and says he's a sleepy person. He was talking to himself, and honestly, I gotta say, I thought it was kind of adorable. And it's kind of funny, the one that doesn't speak is the first one I heard talk. And, like, I don't know. I just was like, aw, without thinking. I think I just sort of let my professionalness not be there. Because I'm like, who cares at this very moment? But my friend Jonathan, despite the fact that he is so lucky, had no idea how the hell he was going to get into the show because it was sold out. And for some reason he was, I'm just going to say it in the way he was, being a chicken shit. And he didn't want to just ask him for a ticket. Me, being the big fan here and the one that never even met the band, saw Zach and I'm like, Zach! And he comes out and I'm like, he wants to talk to you. Like, he didn't even actually say anything to me. And I said hi. I don't think he heard me though, because he didn't respond. I don't think he heard me. And they start talking. He's like, yeah. He's like, we'll get Flyzik, and maybe Flyzik will be able to get you in, no problem. And all of a sudden, Jonathan just, like, hugs me. He's like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, I'm sorry. And I'm like, yeah, and you were the one that was supposed to be helping me? I'm like, mm-hmm. And he did sort of end up helping me, because he got me to meet Jack a little while later. But it was sort of funny, because Flyzik comes out a little while later, and they set it all up. And here's what's funny. I'm not normally intimidated by anybody. For some reason, Matt Flyzik intimidated me, and All Time Low fans, I'm sorry before I say this. Do not hurt me. That was very sassy. I'm sorry. I'm actually kind of glad that Flyzik left them. I mean, he left on good terms, so I'm glad about that. I feel like if they have a different, like, main manager, maybe it'll be easier to get an interview, because and I honestly understood completely why he left, just by watching him that day. He was so stressed out, and honestly, I'd imagine it's very, very difficult to get All Time Low to focus on anything, and to try to keep all of them in the same room, because they all have so many different ideas. And I witnessed that day. Only one you could keep track of was Alex. Alex was asleep in the bus. Or in the dressing room. Either way, he was asleep somewhere. And, Jack, I found out, was down a ways having lunch with his parents, which I thought was really sweet. I found that out from a friend of mine that met him while he was just wandering around because she didn't have the money to go to the show, but she found him wandering found him wandering to the show. I don't know, she found him wandering. And, we still just, like, hung out for a little while, and I was sitting there on the curb talking with some fans, like, in front of the venue, and Jonathan texted me and said, hey, I just talked to Jack, he said he'll be back in, like, 10 minutes, and, that, come to find out, was when he went to go have, lunch with his parents, and it was more than 10 minutes. It was, like, an hour, maybe? No, it probably wasn't that long. It was, like, 20-30 minutes, and, I was like, well, should I come over there then? And, like, we could ask him for the interview? And he's like, yeah, if you want to. And I'm like, oh, yes, I want to. If nothing else, I met Jack Barricott. Of course I want to. And I walk over, and we're, like, hanging out, like, trying to be discreet, make it not look like we're waiting for someone, because we didn't want fangirls to, like, flock all of a sudden. And Flyzik kind of kept giving us a look. Like, I feel like he realized that we were waiting on Jack. Or something. I don't know. He kept giving us a look. And eventually he ended up shooing us away. But he did wait a while. And I understood why he wanted us gone. He was trying to get everybody into that, the bar that was next door for the meet and greet for the Hustler Club. And he said something about it was really hard to get 300 fangirls in the same area. And I'm like, yeah, it probably is. Just dangle the band in front of their face a little bit. They all will come running. And Jack finally came back, and he started to just go right into the bar where he had the meet and greet, and then he saw Jonathan. He was like, had a look on his face, like, oh shit, and then walked over, and he's like, hi, and like they start talking. Jonathan, I was gonna let Jonathan do all the talking, because I'm like, you know what, he's the one that knows him, and I call Jonathan my manager, by the way, even though I do more of the work still, but I still call him my manager, mostly because of his connections. But he asked, if I could have an interview, and Jack got the most pained look on his face. Like, you could tell he didn't want to say no. He looked at me, and he's like, I can't say yes. He's like, you gotta ask Flyzik. He's like, I would love to say yes. He's like, I want to say yes, but I'm not allowed. And I'm like, that's when I spoke up. I'm like, that's okay, I understand. And I'm like, you gotta do what you gotta do, it's okay. I didn't care. Well, I did care, but I didn't want to, I didn't want to be demanding. I understood his reasoning. And, then Jonathan was like, well, how about a picture? And I wasn't going to ask. I was just going to let him go. And even though I did want a picture. And he was like, he again sort of looked like, and he hesitated, and he's like, yeah, sure. And I started to hand Jonathan my camera right as Jack started to put his arm around me. And I'm like, I noticed the look on his face. And I'm like, are you late for something? He sort of laughed. He's like, yeah, I'm waiting for my own meet and greet. I'm like, well, I'm like, go. I'm like, I will get my picture later. Go. And, I did get my picture, by the way. That'll be here. Yeah, I waited an hour after the show to get it, and got, a graphic that you might be able to see in the background, actually. Where is it? Oh, no, there it is. There it is. Yeah, I got that signed. You can't really tell because I don't know what happened with the Sharpie, but it didn't work too well. It was actually really cool because he, was just really nice, and I liked that. And it was funny because as soon as he walked away, my friend Jonathan was like, asked if I realized who I just met, because I wasn't freaking out or anything. He was like, you're a huge fan of him. Why are you not freaking out, like screaming right now? And I'm like, I don't do that. And I'm like, it's just Jack. I don't know. It was funny because before he walked up, I was so excited. Like, I was kind of nervous. I'm like, it's Jack Barricott. Like, mentally I was like that. Now I'm like, it's Jack. Come on now. I mean, I'm still a huge fan, but all-time low are lovable idiots. I'm pretty sure even they would accept that title. Just saying. But, no, it was kind of funny because then we get into the venue. Oh, no. About an hour later, I almost forgot. Hold up. Jamie, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I almost forgot to tell this part of the story. Okay. My number one fan, as she calls herself, she's also one of my internet best friends, came down from Orlando area, to meet me, because All Time Low the very next night was going to Orlando, so she could have just went to Orlando to see them, but no, she wanted to meet me. And her stepdad is incredible and drove her all the way down there for that. And she was texting me and said they were really close, and I'm like, oh my god, yay. And I told her right where we were, and I was like, what are you wearing? She's like, a boner shirt. And I'm like, of course. And I'm like, okay, good. And then I'm standing there just like talking, like I was looking around the whole time going, where the fuck is she? And then I see her and I'm like, Jamie! And like I ran up to her and like gave her a hug, and we stood there talking for a little while. And then we were like standing there a little while still, like waiting to get in line. We weren't quite in line yet. And all of a sudden, she's like staring at something. And I'm like, Jamie, what are you staring at? What? And she's like, Alex. And I'm like, Alex, what? I don't know. For some reason, I didn't understand. She's like, no. She didn't say Alex. I pick on her about this still. She made some kind of, I wish I could recreate it. She made some kind of kitten noise. Like, that's what I call it. Like, a little baby kitten noise. Like, I say you should channel the kitten over this. She was like, made this noise, and I'm like, aw, like, what was that? And she's like, Alex. And I'm like, what? And she like grabbed a hold of my shoulder, turned me around, she's like, Alex, who was like walking up right behind me. And I'm like, oh, and by the way, Alex at the time was my all-time favorite member of the band. I know, I was picking favorites, I'm sorry. He was my favorite. And only one of the whole day that I hadn't had any interactions with. And, he walks right up to Jonathan and just starts talking to him, and I'm like, I'm gonna go say hi. Right as I decided to do that, well, actually, at first I hesitated, because I was still laughing at Jamie making the kitten noise. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna go say hi. And right as I walked up, fangirls noticed that he was there, and like started like, I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating, I swear to God, I thought they were going to eat them. Or eat him. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, I mean that in a zombie way. This one girl, I swear, looked like a ravenous vampire or zombie, something. She looked like she was going to attack him. And I got scared for his life, and I think so did security guards, but I kind of like walked up right behind him, and I don't think I actually pushed him, but I think I like put my hand on his back and like gave him like a little nudge. It's funny, I didn't say a damn word to him, but I did that. And he got inside, and I'm just like, was like, oh dear God, he almost got eaten by fangirls. That's why I'd be a good security guard. I might be half of everybody's size, but I see fangirls and I get scared for the people's lives and just shove. And, it was funny because I still haven't met Alex. I've now tried to meet Alex 3 times, and it hasn't worked. In fact, I tried to meet him later that night, and after all the hell I had been through, and like the being pushed and shoved around through the whole show. By the way, I was also getting a cold at this, so I didn't feel good. I was getting pushed and shoved. I thought I was gonna die during the whole show. All kinds of things. By the time I got outside and was talking with people calmly, it was the middle of the night. I got Jack's picture, and started to go to Alex. And I don't know where Ryan and Zach were, but they were not out there. Probably hiding from the fans, which sounds horrible, but can you really blame them with how their fan base is? I personally don't. And, I started to get up to Alex, some girl pushed me out of the way. And then right as I got up there, security pulled him away. He had no voice, so he couldn't even speak. And to be perfectly honest, he and Jack both looked like little boys, like in the face. Like they both, I think it was because they were so tired, they just looked like little boys to me. And I thought it was, I honestly said aw. I'm going to admit that. I said aw when I saw especially Alex's face. Because they look so different off of the stage versus on stage. I've had this experience with other bands too, but I've never seen them look like small children. when they weren't on stage, except for All Time Low. And it was really strange. But, well, except for Jack and Alex, because Zach and Ryan looked the same. Honestly, they did. They looked the same. And, I was so just frustrated and upset that I kind of ended up, I was venting to one of the girls that I'd been talking to who was in a 3 Days Grace shirt, and I just, like, had to, like, high-five her over that. But I kind of was, like, venting a little bit, and I, like, teared up a little bit. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not because it's him. I'm just frustrated. And she's like, aw, she's like, you'll get to meet him. And I'm like, I know, it was just beside the point. And, yeah, that hasn't happened still. But, I think I talked about that in the Spring Fever Tour video when I tried to meet them again. So, I don't need to make a video about Spring Fever Tour. You'll see that. But the show itself, I was really impressed with their performance. The only thing I did have to complain about like them themselves was Jack almost kicked me in the face while I was in front of the barricade. The whole entire show, because it was so packed, the security guards were letting us stay up there, which you're not normally supposed to do. Although me and one other girl, who ironically I met at Warped Tour, before we even got into the pit, we were standing there going, how the fuck are we going to get down there, because it was so crowded. I think 100% of the Hustler Club took over the pit, and that was just kind of dangerous. We're sitting there going, how the hell do we do this? And we just both decided to, like, link arms and, like, work our way against the wall of the pit up to the barricade, because the barricade had a little opening for the press people, which was on that wall. So we just worked our way up there and, like, linked arms. And when we get up there, of course, we had, like, you know, a moment where we're like, okay, we did it. And relaxed for a second. I'm like, you look familiar. And she's like, you look familiar, too. We're, like, standing there talking a couple minutes. And she's like, were you, by any chance, at Warped Tour this year? And I'm like, yeah. Come to find out, her friend was the one that I helped get into the press area, and we had talked about All Time Low then. And I asked her, I'm like, did you ever get to interview anybody? And she's like, we interviewed We Are the In Crowd, but that was it. And, let's see. The first band up was Not There for Tomorrow. That was a whole other show. The first band up was the Downtown Fiction, and I actually was not looking forward to seeing them that much. I didn't really care. It wasn't that I wasn't looking forward to it, I just really didn't care. And I was actually really impressed. They are balls of energy and fun. They're just fun people on stage, and it was really great. And we were allowed to stay up in front of the barricade the whole time. We only were allowed to take pictures for the first 3, but still, we had the best view because we were just standing there right next to the speaker. And, they were really fun. I enjoyed them, and I would go see them again. And, I don't really remember most of what they played, and for the most part, people were enjoying their set, but most people didn't know the words except for with I Just Wanna Run, which I believe was the last song they played. Makes sense. And they, I don't know, I just liked them, and the lead singer made some of the best faces while singing. Oh my god, it was hilarious. And, in between sets, I remember they played, Pierce the Veil's Paraphernalia. That was funny. I was standing this far away from the speaker, and everyone was singing so loud I couldn't actually hear Vic at all. I could not hear Vic Fuentes singing because the crowd was being so loud, and I thought that was incredibly hilarious and fun. And they played, like, All the Small Things at one point. That was right before, like, literally right before All Time Low got on stage. I feel like All Time Low requested that. But anyway, and then there was Hit the Lights, and they had something wrong with their audio. Like, honestly, they should have turned down something. I'm not sure what it was, but something didn't sound right. The floor was shaking uncomfortably at points, and at one point, it was during Drop the Girl. Yeah, their speaker, I swear to God, I thought something blew up. I don't know what happened, but it sounded like something blew up, and I was expecting to see, like, smoke and fire. That's how bad it was. And I jumped about a foot in the air, because one, the floor shook so bad that I kind of had no choice, but I jumped because it was this far away from my head. And, I couldn't hear until All Time Low got out on the stage, and they were not the last band up, by the way. The summer set was on right before All Time Low was. And Matt Fleisig actually was up on stage with Hit the Lights at one point because their singer, I think his name's Max, I'm sorry if it isn't, had something wrong with his voice that night. So he sounded fine to me, but he had something wrong with his voice, so Matt came up on stage. And honestly, I think I enjoyed that part more than anything because, I don't know, I feel like he had more energy than Max did, and I just liked it. And the funny thing is too, speaking of Matt, random change of subject, but still relevant, somewhere in between the bands, I kind of could see like the dressing room. You could tell that All Time Low really took that one over, that Matt did. I could see like 4 Mickey Mouse dolls just right there, and I'm like, dear Lord. I'm like, that obsession, man. Yeah, I kind of like wasn't overly impressed with Hit the Lights, although it was awfully fun when they played Body Bag because like everyone was singing along. I mean, I couldn't hear at this point out of my ear because of the explosion in the speaker, but yeah, so that was fun. And then I actually got out of the pit for the summer set because like I said, I had a cold. I was getting a cold. I didn't feel very well at that point. I was like, I need a break. I really actually was looking forward to the summer set because I've liked them, I think, longer than I've liked All Time Low. And I hadn't really listened to them again for a while, and I was really happy with it because I followed my friend Jonathan into like the VIP area, which is like right next to the stage. It's basically side stage, but like here's the stage, here's where we were, but still, we were basically side stage, and that was cool. And I got some really cool crowd pictures from that angle. And, not too many pictures of the band, actually, but I got some really good crowd pictures. And I like crowd pictures, they're cool. And, I have such a weird way of explaining things, I'm sorry. Dear Lord, I jump all around. But, as we were walking over to, well, as I was walking over to, Jonathan was rolling over to the, little area that we were in, they started with Chelsea, and I was like, dear Lord, I haven't heard this song forever. And like had fun listening to that, and it was a good time. And then they played Fuck You Over, and that was hilarious because it was not hilarious, it was good. Now, what was hilarious was hearing The Boys You Do Get Back at You live. I've never heard so many people say, I'm gonna sleep with all your friends. That was hilarious. I actually started laughing. And I liked them. I will go see them again one day. And I really, by the way, like their new album, Legendary. Oh my god, it's so good. They didn't play a whole lot of songs from that album yet, but I think they probably do now that it's out. It wasn't out yet. At the time, the only song that was out... No, they had Boomerang out too. They had Fuck You Over and Boomerang out, but I don't think anything else was out yet. I don't remember. Or if they did, those were the only ones I knew. And, anyways, they did good, and then I decided to get some water real quick, and then I went right back down to the pit for All Time Low, and it was just insanity. They started with The Reckless and the Brave, and I think it was during the second song, which I can't remember which one it was. I feel like it was Somewhere in Neverland, but I don't remember. Jack decided to climb on the speaker. That wasn't a good idea, because he did that, and then fangirls decided they wanted to try to rape him. So they flooded the damn barricade. Like, literally, people got in front of the barricade. I got slammed in the stage, and was kind of pissed off, and kind of was, like, hoping to just, like, save my own life there. I debated climbing onto the stage and just sitting there for safety. Like, I wasn't gonna do anything. I was probably gonna take a couple pictures and then get back off the stage. I wasn't gonna like run around the stage and like crowd surf or anything. I wasn't gonna do anything like that. But I think Alex realized I was considering that because he sort of looked down at me like, please don't. Like, no, don't. Please, no, stop. So I was like, fine, I won't scare the band. And I just sort of walked over and like stood there. And then I walked back and it was, like they cleared away. And Jack sort of gave me a look. And then... No, I gave him a look because as he was trying to get down, he scared the shit out of someone because he put his hand on top of her head and she just gave me a look like, help me. Oh my god, he's touching me, help me. Like, she didn't look happy about it. She looked terrified. And Then he nearly kicked me in the face, which I smacked his foot away and glared at him. And he sort of gave me a look like, sorry, and climbed back on the stage. And I'm like, yeah, you better be sorry. And, oh, it wasn't. That was like the fourth one. That was like the fourth song, because then we got shooed away by one of their tech people. I feel like it was Jeff or something, I don't know. One of them shooed us away, so then we ended up back into the pit, and it was like, no, I wasn't okay with that. I kept getting pushed and shoved, and at one point I almost fell. This guy caught me and then like made me stand between him and what I think was his boyfriend. They made me stand between them because they were afraid that I was gonna get hurt, because they could see over my head. They could see when people were like swaying, and like, no, it wasn't safe. I braved most of it. Like, I stayed in the pit through most of it, but I couldn't see because I'm short and I kept getting pushed around, and I just was done. So I think it was about 4 songs before they were done, decided to get out of the pit. And it was hilarious because I got some water. I'm like leaning on the barricade that was right next to the pit, next to this girl, and I forget what it was. Something happened. Oh, I remember what it was. It wasn't, they like turned on the lights at one point, and the girl standing next to her was like, oh, they must be done. And I'm like, are you crazy? And she's like, no. And I'm like, they're not done. They haven't played Dear Maria. And she's like, her friend, the one that was standing next to me, is like, yeah, they haven't played Dear Maria yet. And I made some funny comment too that they both busted out laughing. I think Alex did something cute or something, and I'm like, god damn. I don't know, I made some comment about them being attractive. Probably, I don't fucking remember. But it was a good night, I guess. And the funny thing is, I actually left that show because of how crazy the fans were, swearing I would never see them again. And then they announced the Spring Fever tour. A month later, I bought tickets. No, 2 months later, because I bought them in January. So, yeah, that didn't last too long. But anyway, I believe that's all the details I really have for that concert. So, hopefully you enjoyed it. And there will only be... yeah, there's only about 3 more concert stories left. So, hopefully you guys have been enjoying these. Thank you for watching, and normal videos will be coming back soon if you haven't been enjoying them. Thank you. Love you. Goodbye.